What's going on, Bucs fans? Welcome to a special Friday edition of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. And what a week it's been for the Bucs. They got some big returns at practice. They got a suspension. They made a couple roster moves as well. They're coming off a tough loss and facing another tough opponent in the Buffalo Bills come this weekend. We'll get into all that, what moves were made, who's back at practice, and what happened against the Pats, and what the Bucs need to do to win against the Bills. We'll get into all that and more right after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Welcome back to the other side. As I mentioned, a lot of stuff to get into today as far as some of the moves that the Bucs have made. Some people returning to practice. We'll see if they're going to be able to play against the Bills this week. And a couple of other little housekeeping things as well. But let's start with Sunday. Bucs did not play their best game on Sunday. Offense came out humming right off the rip, score a first drive touchdown. Everything looks like it's going to be going well. And then things just start falling off. The wheels start falling off the vehicle. The defense allowed 4-5 explosive plays, if you count the 26-yarder to Demario Douglas, but 5 really big explosive plays. One 54-yarder to Matt Collins. Of course, Travion Henderson's 2 touchdowns, one for 54. I think the other one was like 71 or something like that. And then, of course, you have the touchdown by Kyle Williams there that went for 72 yards as well. Uncharacteristic of the Bucs, like their defense does not really allow explosive plays. Like they might allow a 20-yarder down here and there, but they don't really allow these big plays, especially not multiple times a game. Obviously, you go back to the first week against the Falcons and the Bijan Robinson, and then they have let up a few occasional other explosive plays during the games. Like I'm talking like big game-changing touchdowns, long runs, stuff like that. That really kind of put a wrench in what the defense is trying to do. Obviously, those 4 plays, specifically those 3 that went for scores were huge. Atlanta, there was a big one as well. I believe Seattle, there was a big one with JSN. Just trying to think back through the games. It hasn't been, if it was a prevalent issue, I'd be thinking of bringing up way more examples, but it's not a really prevalent issue. And when they do let someone out and do let a big play happen, it's usually not something that's repeated during the game. So when you take those plays out of it as a whole, there's a lot to like about what this Bucs defense did on Sunday. And of course, those plays are the reason why they lost. So, but they played a really good game otherwise than that. I think the rotation between Jamel Dean and Benjamin Morrison, as soon as Benjamin Morrison was in that game, they targeted him right away. And turns out to be the 72-yard touchdown. And it wasn't all on him. There was an issue in the pattern. Tyke was right there and kind of got in his way. It's not 100, but still, it just shows you, when Dean was back in the game, he wasn't really targeted. They didn't really look to them. He's holding opposing quarterbacks to, I think, a 29.7% passer rating. Like he's been on fire this year. 3 interceptions. He made another big, huge. It would have been another explosive play, to be honest with you. Travion Henderson. He made a big tackle on him in the first quarter. That if he didn't make that play, there was no one else to catch him. And then he made another big tackle on Henderson at the line of scrimmage too, holding him to just 1 yard gain. I mean, that's one part of Dean's job and his play that goes really underrated. He's tremendous in run support. He really is. Of course, a few times in his career, he's gotten hurt and injured by coming up to and being physical and run support. But it's just really a part of his game that doesn't get talked about enough. And saved a really, potentially 2 really big plays. Definitely one for sure on Sunday. But I thought the pressure they were getting. Obviously, you'd like to see them get home and bring down, one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL, but they got him once, and they did get some good pressure on him. I think the Patriots were just doing a lot of good things on offense, too, to kind of take the Bucs out of what they like to do. And that's a credit to them. That's a credit to Josh McDaniels. You knew they were going to go with 2 tight ends. Austin Hooper gets hurt. They changed their game plan a little bit. But outside of those big, explosion for touchdowns, there wasn't a lot that the Buccaneers defense gave up. It wasn't like this was a bloodbath from the start. They played good football. They just allowed a lot of explosive plays. I mean, they held them, to 5 of 14 on third down, in the red zone. My notes, give me a second. In the red zone, they did really well too. I'm there. Red zone 1 for 2. You're only, a team that has that many weapons and can beat you in a variety of ways. You hold them to a field goal, especially in a goal to go situation. I thought that was a really good sign. So, I thought there was a lot to like. You take out those big explosive runs from Travion Henderson, and they really didn't get much yardage on the ground. I mean, Drake May, he's dangerous with his legs, but they did a good job containing him to only 13 yards on the ground. The other guys they had, Dearness Johnson and Jennings got injured throughout the game, but you take out that 70-something yard run, 69-yard run, sorry, and the 55-yard run, and those numbers look a lot different too. So of course, I mean that's all encompasses in their performance, right? You can't say if they didn't do that. But it just goes to show that this wasn't a game where New England was just flat out beat by a Patriots offense that has been really efficient all season long. This was a game that they let up big plays, and those big plays help to beat you. And you can never. I mean, they won over the turnover battle too. With the interception from Tyke Smith. It's just you can't win if you're going to continue to let up big plays, and I think that's something that again was uncharacteristic of the Bucs defense this season. Again, so many in one game. They've done it a few times. I pointed out some examples, but so many in one game, I don't think is characteristic of what this Bucs defense is going to be going forward. And Todd Bowles, Larry Foote, and the defensive staff laid into them all week about this. So I think they'll bounce back from there. As far as the offense, Baker, I don't need to expand on Baker's words after the game. You've gone out there and scored 7, but you got to have pride. You want to keep your foot on the gas and you want to keep going. You have to find the killer instinct. And that's something that we've been talking about, the killer instinct going back to last year. And of course it showed up in the first part of the season, right? And those 4, game winning drives in the last minute that showed up, but on offense consistently throughout a game, it hasn't. It really hasn't. I mean, the Niners game is the closest you can say to that it's just been humming from the get. I mean, maybe the Seahawks, maybe they scored 38 points again, last minute drive, but like the Niners probably is the only one that the offense was just, doing its thing. Because they got to kneel out a win. They got to kneel it out. Every other one of these games outside the Saints game, which was a defensively won game, every other game has been them trying to score with, every other win, I should say, has been with them scoring in the last second. So that San Francisco game, let's just take a look back into it while I'm talking to you guys. I don't want to lie to you. And even that was back and forth. There was no, there are 2019 with, 2 minutes left, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third quarter when Tez Johnson made it 27-19. And then the field goal late in the fourth, under the 2-minute warning is what brought it to 30-19. They're going back and forth. The Bucs got on the board first, and the Niners took the lead, and the Bucs took the lead, and then the Niners cut into it, and then, the offense hasn't been steady. And the reason why this team has won games throughout a game at all, and that needs to change. Whether it's again the killer instinct that they have to find, or whether guys taking pride, keeping the foot on the gas, the offense got to figure it out. And it's not just one unit too. I know a lot of people have been pointing to the offensive line. Yes, the offensive line, especially with the injuries at guard and with Luke Gedeke being out, has struggled tremendously. Dan Feeney was on the ground quite a few times, against the Patriots, and that front is something fierce. Baremore, Tonga, and Milton Williams. I mean, that's how you build an interior. And Michael Jordan was pushed around too, both of those guys. And it wasn't the cleanest game for Barton. And Wirfs hasn't had the best game either. Best games either. He's struggled since coming back too, especially against the Saints. So, yes, the offensive line has been an issue, but Baker's been an issue too. He's not 100%. He's not taking those scrambles and running like he was in the beginning half of the season. Teams are playing him different, and the wide receiver is different, but he's still missing reads, missing throws, trying to push the ball down the field instead of taking some of the quick little screens and quick little outs he's got just to move the chains. My keys to beating the Patriots were to be the Patriots, to beat the Patriots. Dink and dunk all the way down the field. Take what they're going to give you and don't look for those deep plays. Now, it paid off on a couple of them, of course. But I think they could have been way more consistent moving the balls if they were just tick, 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 taking their shots and moving the ball down the field. Worry about the red zone when you're in the red zone area. But move the ball down the field consistently. And after that first drive, they really weren't able to do that until later in the game, pretty much over. So at that point, like, what are we doing here? I think I don't know what the offense needs to do. I talked to Josh Grizzard, and I asked them because it's the wide receivers as well. Like it's the wide receivers too are struggling to separate. And teams are playing a lot more man coverage, so there's not those soft zones for them to find, and they're using that man. They're using that guy to spy on Baker Mayfield to take him out of the way. So it's a combination. The run game's not getting enough push. There's not enough creativeness, and you saw Tucker kind of take over for White last game because he was more effective with the ball in his hands on the ground. All these things are contributing to the offense. Play calling can be an issue too. But for play calling, every team deals with injuries, and I understand that. But man, to be where the Bucs are now, with where they were supposed to be, or they even were in the beginning of the season with some of those guys, man, it's certainly making a difference. That's for sure. Not having Bucky out there certainly making a difference. They're not as creative in the run game. They're going, He makes people miss and makes things out of nothing all the time. Hopefully Gedicke's back. They can start to settle in. Of course, now there's another injury on the offensive line that they have to worry about either. The Bucs said this is one of the best weeks of practice they had, but they also said that coming out of, the bye week, they said everyone was focused and locked in. And this week we talked to Tristan Wirfs, and he said, we've probably had two of the best practices we've had after, the message was received, take some pride in your work, find a killer instinct. Don't just take your foot off the gas, because we got a first drive touchdown. So we'll see what it looks like coming out this week. There will be some players available, some players not available. We'll start with one of the players available, not due to injury, but due to suspension. Some final words on the Patriots-Bucs game before we move on. I thought it was encouraging. The Patriots are clearly one of the cream of the crops in the NFL right now. Not just the AFC or NFL, but the NFL as a whole. They've won 8 straight in a row. They have the best record for now because Thursday Night Football for now in the NFL. This is not a fluke. I thought they'd be a potential wild card team. This is not a fluke. Drake May is the truth. The coaching changes have done wonders. The staff, the money they spent, and the draft picks they brought in have helped turn this thing around as well. This is it's a tough loss, and it's a bad loss because of the way you lost with the explosive plays. So this isn't a team that we should be talking about like we were at the beginning of the season where, this is an easy game out of the bye week, the Patriots, and then you got no, this was a tough team. They lost to a very tough team, a team that could potentially be the AFC's representative in the Super Bowl. And they still found a way to make it competitive at the end. They just ran out of time, so I don't think this should be indicative of, let's start to panic. The Bucs season's over. They've got the Bills, the Rams. It's over. It's over. I don't think anything like that. But for one players, the season's pretty much effectively over for going forward. We're in week 11. He is suspended for 6 games, so he will not be eligible to return until week 18. And potentially in the playoffs. That is Josh Williams, the rookie running back, undrafted free agent that they signed out of LSU. Really impressed in the preseason. He's had a few opportunities to touch the ball with Bucky out, but then he got injured himself. So he missed some time, and it led them to bring in Owen Wright and another running back that I can't remember on the practice squad because he's, kind of like a bottom of the barrel guy. But I can get that information for you. Of course I can. But yeah, so it's not a huge loss. He does well on special teams. He does well on kickoff, stuff like that. Obviously, we remember, he had a big kickoff return for the Buccaneers already this season. So it is a loss on special teams, especially with Bucky Irving's status for the game up in the air. You only have two healthy running backs with Rashad White and Sean Tucker now, with Josh Williams suspended. They're going to definitely have to bring someone back up from the practice squad, likely Owen Wright, who was there with them throughout the training camp and re-signed to the practice squad probably like a month ago when Bucky went down. So they'll have him probably elevated, if not outright moved up to the active roster because of the suspension, opens up a 53-man spot. They could also go with Mohamed Kamara, who both of those guys have been elevated twice. They can only be elevated 3 times in 1 year. So they're running out of elevation. So they could sign one or both of those guys to the roster, make some other moves. They definitely need running back depth now with Williams suspended for the next 6 games. Bucky Irving potentially still out. We'll get into those injuries in a minute. And certainly with Mohamed Kamara. Yesterday, Anthony Nelson popped up on the injury report on Thursday's injury report with an illness. So obviously he is not 100%. But even if he wasn't dealing with that illness, with the loss of Hassan Reddick, and Marquise Watts, you're only down to 3 edge rushers. You need to bring an edge rusher, even if it's just for special teams purposes, because that's the type of body type you're looking for there. Marquise Watts, played a lot of special teams for them. Maybe you bring him up to the active roster. Again, Mo Kamara is someone who I was really high on. I can't wait to see him actually get some more snaps on defense. He's had like 3 or I think he's had like 5 snaps, 6 snaps on defense, but I want him to let's see him get into the rotation. I think he can provide a spark to that pass rush, but we'll see how that all plays out. Because the Bucs are going to have to figure something out, because this week in practice, there was good and some bad. I don't think there was any ugly, but definitely some good and some bad. We'll start with the bad. Ben Bredesen left the game early in that first quarter with a hamstring injury, was quickly ruled out, was at practice all 3 days, and I saw him in the locker room yesterday. He does have a sleeve on his right leg. However, on Wednesday, it was reported he was practicing after the injury report. He's just observing practice the last 3 practices, including today's practice, which is already wrapped. And we've got our report from Todd Bowles. Unfortunately for the Buccaneers, the bad news continues, because Tristan was out due to injury to start the season. Cody Mauch's out for the season. Luke Edeke is out for an extended period of time. The only person who hasn't been out this year are Graham Barton and Ben Bredesen. That changed. Ben Bredesen will be out for this game. The Bucs have to find a solution at left guard. They had Michael Jordan back there last week. He's pretty much been a career left guard. Played right guard for the Bucs because of the Cody Mauch injury, but he's been a career left guard. He got worked over a few times going up against a guy like Milton Williams. That means Dan Feeney or Luke Haggard, or potentially even Elijah Klein, will likely get the start over at right guard. Feeney was there last week. I mentioned it earlier. He was not having a good day against Milton Williams, mostly Christian Barmore, Kyrus Tonga, but he did not have a fun day, that's for sure. But we'll see where the Bucs go from here, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a long-term significant injury, but one that they definitely want to keep him out for this week so he doesn't re-aggravate it and stay out longer. So that's a big one to keep an eye out for when it comes to this Buffalo Bills team. We'll get into the Buffalo Bills and what they bring to the table on defense and why it's going to be an issue for this Bucs offense with 2 of these journeyman kind of guards filling in for Cody and for now Ben Bredesen. Hassan Reddick did not practice at all, was not out there at all, so he will miss another week. The good news is the Buccaneers got a little lucky, because Bucky was back at practice this week, all 3 days, as was receiver Chris Godwin. Bucky's dealing with the ankle and shoulder injuries. At this point in time, it's more of just a shoulder injury. He's out there running. He's out there moving around. What they really need to do is see him take a hit. And they didn't have a practice in pads this week, so there's no way to see him take a hit. So he will be out this week. but it's good that he's starting to ramp up and get a bigger workload. And the hope is that he will be able to go next week against the Rams. That's a big game, NFC opponent. Rams are on fire right now. It is in LA. It's a Monday night game. And Todd Bowles can't beat Sean McVay. So he needs all the hustles he can get. Because, like I said, Bucky just brings the creativity to the running game. His ability to make defenders miss is a huge plus for this offense too, to keep drives moving, keep yards churning forward. Because the Bucs have struggled since he's been out, quite frankly. The other good news is Chris Godwin was back at practice again, still running around. He's got the fibula issue on the same leg that he dislocated his ankle on last year. Not sure what that's about as far as, a timetable, so to speak, when he might be back. I like to think that maybe next week, but everything we've heard so far has been end of November, beginning of December. This might just be and I think Todd Bowles kind of said it a little bit too today, and I'll get the exact quote here in a minute if my technology will stop twigging out. He said someone out. I wasn't there this morning, but one of my constituents, someone on the beat, asked if he feels good about the progress that Irving and Godwin are making. He said, "Yeah, I feel really good about them. We'll see next week. There's a process they have to go through, but they're out running around well and they're moving well. We'll go through the process to make sure they're 100% before they get out there. It's not this week, but we'll see how next week goes." That's encouraging news, especially on Chris Godwin, because it seemed like he was going to be out much longer than this time period that we had. But to see him back running around and moving forward in the process, and Todd Bowles saying we'll see next week. Again, it's Todd Bowles. He's the worst for injuries. Don't ever believe anything he says. Love your coach, but you're terrible when it comes to injuries. You don't tell us anything. He's so good at it. He's so good at it this time. He's probably one of the best in the league at giving us nothing while giving us nothing. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's a good news they're ramping up. Obviously, it stinks they don't have Bredesen this week. It stinks they don't have Hassan Reddick back this week, because this Buffalo Bills team is a pretty good team. And they'll need both of those guys for this stretch run they're going to make after this, because the Cardinals look like an easy win after the Rams, but Atlanta is giving the Bucs trouble. It's their divisional games too. These Panthers games, they're going to give the Bucs trouble. Remember, the Bucs barely won the NFC South a week early if they did not secure that win in overtime last year, thanks to Anthony Nelson and Yaya Diaby with a heads-up play. So, there's still more to come, but to have those guys come back and be on their way back is super encouraging for a Bucs team that needs everyone they can get healthy at this point in time. They did make a move on the practice squad. Fan favorite Desmond Watson was released, so he will not be with the team at this point going forward. However, there's a possibility he could come back. And because they are needing so much depth at outside linebacker and other positions, I'm sure, if they didn't have two on the practice squad already, they would have added a running back. They added Benton Whitney. He is a linebacker from Holy Cross, played up in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he's from. So go him. I had a conversation with him yesterday. He's a pretty cool guy. We'll see what he can do as far as, carving out a role on this team, whether it's on special teams or eventually a practice squad elevation. He's been in the league for a couple of years now. I think he's got like 6 games in between the Vikings and I want to say the Giants, but I'm not positive on that. Don't quote me. Check my Twitter because it's on there. I did put it on there. But let's get into this Bills game because I have 8% battery life and on my laptop, and we got to get through it. So the Bills are a damn good team. They've had some tough losses so far this year, losing games to, at first the New England loss we thought was kind of like, oh, that's a bad loss for them. Turns out that it's not a bad loss for anyone who's lost against New England. The Falcons loss was a tough one. And then obviously they lose against Miami too. They're sitting right here at 6-3, same with the Bucs. It is in Buffalo. It's going to be chilly out, but that has the offensive linemen and some of the Haas that play up in there. Luke Gedeke, he's from a Wisconsin guy, and Tristan Wirfs, Iowa guy. They're excited about the cold weather, although Tristan did say, I stepped outside this week, it was 30 degrees, and I was like, it's cold. Living in Tampa has broken me. I feel the same way. People don't tell you that. Like 60 degrees up north, you're throwing on. We're breaking, Ma, where are the tank tops? Where's the shorts? Down here, it's like, where's the hoodies? Where's the pants? it's someone who's lived in both climates, and this one now for like 6, 7 years. 6, 7 years. Sorry. I'm sorry. So sorry about that. It's definitely your blood does thin, and it does feel colder for whatever reason. It's like a wet cold that goes like straight through your bones. You guys feel me? Let me know. Um, anyways, should be a fun game though. The Bills defense has struggled in numerous areas, but nowhere worse than defending the run. They have struggled. They're the 30th ranked team, letting 147.6 yards per game, and they're second in the league, allowing rushing touchdowns with 14 behind the Titans 15, tied for second with the Giants. Their run defense is really porous, but they make up for it in other ways. Their pass defense is one of the best in the league. They're only allowing 170.2 yards for third in the league. Their scoring defense, again, their total defense is 14th. A lot of that comes down from their terrible run defense, but they're 317 yards per game. They're only allowing 23 touchdowns. Again, a lot of big portion of that is that 15 from the run defense. But they're not letting teams score a lot though either. That's the thing. They have the 23 overall touchdowns, but they're holding teams to just 21.9 points per game, 11th in the league. So they're not allowing a lot of points. Their red zone defense is pretty good. 58.3% of the time they're allowing a touchdown. It's good for 13th in the league. And on third down, again, 13th, 37.5% of the time they're allowing conversions on defense. So you can run the ball on them, but they don't allow you to score that much or move the ball to the air that much. So those will be challenges. Maxwell Harrison's playing really good right now. Obviously, they have a plethora of weapons in that defensive secondary. Trey White has passed along a lot of what he's been able to do in that defense for so long to these cornerbacks like Maxwell Harrison, who was the Bucs were heavily attached to him throughout the draft process. But Cole Bishop has really grown in. Jordan Poyer has taken continues to be a good player for them. Christian Benford has really stepped up as well. So they've got some players in that secondary. They also got players on that defensive front that can get to the quarterback with Greg Russo. Deion Walker has really kind of showed us some things, and Joey Bosa. Daquan Jones just came back last week, didn't have a great week. But I think, again, Matt Milano's a tackling machine. Terrell Bernard has been, up and down for them, as has Dorian Williams. I think you can take advantage of the linebacker area here as well. There's some plays to be made in coverage on these guys. We'll see what they can do as far as getting the backs utilized and the tight ends more utilized. K. Dotton had a good game. He's going to need another good game this week. And the tackles just need to protect, too. They can get some good interior pressure with the rotation they have with, no Ed Oliver, he's out on IR. No Michael Hawk, he's out on IR. No Landon Jackson, he's out on IR. It has hit their team pretty bad in multiple spots, so especially along that front. TJ Saunders, Dwayne Carter, Philadelphia Mathis is already ruled out. I said Daquan Jones isn't 100%. They're going to have to really guard against Joey Bosa because he's looked phenomenal this season. Definitely better than he has the last couple of years. Greg Russo's really benefited from that on the other side. But there's some plays to be made against that. There's definitely some plays to be made against that linebacking core. And I think there's some opportunities to hit Ibuka on Trey White too. I don't think it's the same level of speed isn't there. And I think Ibuka can make some plays on him. We'll see how that all plays out and how that goes. Certainly a tough matchup for Cortez Johnson against Benford and Harrison, but we'll see how they track. And Trey White's not usually a Christian Gonzalez type where he's going to follow their number one wide receiver, not anymore at least, but we'll see how that all plays out. They can attack the defense in a couple different areas. The biggest one is going to be the run game. Like, you have to be able to move the ball on the ground this game. The Bucs haven't been great at it. Their rushing offense is right, bottom third of the league, 25th, 99 yards per game. They've only had 6 trips into the end zone there. They've got to figure it out because if they can get the ball moving on the ground, it will open up that other stuff underneath to Cade and some of their backs and, some things to Emeka Egbuka. So attack their defense, attack their linebackers. I think those are the two biggest things you can do, and you really have to make sure at the exterior, at the very least, right? You have to be able to block Russo. You have to be able to block Bosa. The interior pressure has been coming. Baker's got to figure out how to, and Grizzard have to figure out how to compensate that. The interior pressure comes, but you've got to block the outside. You can't let Bosa and Russo beat you. If you can block the outside, you can get the ball running. Now you can hit some shots to those tight ends and running backs against those linebackers. That's, I think, for me, is what you got to do if you want to win this game on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, biggest thing right now is don't let up explosive plays. Like, you can't do that. You can't. You saw what happened last week. You gotta contain those explosive plays. This is a very good Bills offense. Very good Bills offense. You know, they're second in the league in total offense. They're averaging 384 yards per game, 31 touchdowns on offensive touchdowns is up there for top 5 in the league. Their passing offense has been really good as well. They're ranked 12, 231 yards per game, but their rushing offense, James Cook and Josh Allen, have been running amok on people. 153 yards per game, 16 touchdowns in the season. They're the best rushing offense in the NFL. And the defense, stop the run game. Can't be making it any more clear than that. Stop the run game. You have to shut it down. You have to find ways for Josh to beat you. If you got to employ what teams have been doing to Baker, keeping a spy in, playing a little more man coverage, guess what? You've got a cornerback in Jamel Dean that excels in press man coverage. Play him there. All right? Like, that's what you have to do. You have to say they're down Dalton Kincaid this week. He's not healthy. They've got, they don't have a ton of weapons. Khalil Shakir has been pretty good. They have Keon Coleman, who's made some plays for them as well. But as far as like premier wide receivers go, they don't have it. Josh Palmer is their third wide receiver 3. They really don't have those guys. So you have to stop the run game and Josh Allen. And that way you can make it more difficult. With Dalton Kane, Dawson Knox is going to be there, and tight ends have beaten the Bucs. And, James Cook and Dawson Knox and even Ty Johnson. Like, you got to be aware of these guys when they're coming across the middle. You got to be aware of these guys when, on these quick little outs and stuff like that. And you got to make the tackle. Like, you have to make the tackle. That's something that has plagued this Bucs team, is missed tackles. Make the tackle. Stop the run and force Josh Allen in this offense to beat you with their wide receiver weapons. Cover the middle of the field good. Don't make stupid mistakes and stupid penalties. A good pass interference and a bad pass interference, there's a difference. Don't make the bad one. Make the good one if you need to. So this looks like a tough challenge because it is the Buffalo Bills, because it is Josh Allen, league MVP last year, because the Bills have yet to lose a back-to-back game, kind of like the Lions have this season, but in recent seasons as well. It makes it to be definitely a difficult matchup. But the Bucs can win this. They just have to follow those keys. Like, it's easier said than done, obviously, but on offense, block the ends. Don't let the pass rush get to Baker on the outside. He's going to have to figure out. It's going to come through the middle at times. It is. Michael Jordan and Dan Feeney, Luke Haggard, Elijah Klein, whoever you want. Even Graham Barton hasn't played his best game. Haven't played his best this season. We haven't seen his best game this season at all. Might have came at left tackle, to be honest with you. But at center, we haven't seen it. So there's going to be pressure up the middle. Block the guys in the end. Don't let them affect you. Move around the pocket however you need to be. You've got to establish some sort of running game. You have to, and attack their linebackers, attack their weaknesses on defense. On the Bucs, protect the middle of the field. So you have the same weakness. Protect it. Shut down the running game. Force them to beat you other guys. Don't beat yourself. Don't be the Bucs beating the Bucs. They can do that. They should win, and I think they have a real shot at doing so. But it's gonna be difficult. I don't know if they have all the pieces back. With Bucky not being there, it certainly is a little bit of a tougher hill to climb. And again, like I said, this team has been averaging 27 points per game. The Bucs are right there, 24 points a game. So it's not like they're far behind, but that's what I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the Bills 27, the Bucs 24. That's my score prediction. couple field goals, couple touchdowns. In the end, the Bucs, the Bills just do more. I do think they bounce back from last week's performance, and it's a little bit more competitive. It's not a wait till the end of the game. It's not a little more one-sided all game. I do think they limit those explosive plays, which I think has to be a huge part of any game plan for them to have success. But I just think it's going to be a tough game. I had them losing this game before the season, had them beating the Patriots. So, but I think this is going to be a tough one for them, in the cold, in their environment. It gets really loud out there. And they've just been too good. They've had too many weapons to stop. And if the Bucs can't slow them down, and especially in the run game, it's going to be over quick. So, better chance, I think, in my opinion, to bounce back next week. If you follow along, I had that as a win. I think that's where I'm looking for, maybe Godwin's back, maybe Bredson's back, maybe Bucky's back. It's an NFC game. Not that every game doesn't count, but again, NFC team versus an AFC team. It all counts in the standings towards the end, but it really counts in tiebreaker situations when you're talking about seeding. Looks like the Bucs should win the NFC South again. So, they're automatically number 4. So you have to win this if you want to be 3-2, or, you only have 3 losses, potentially even 1. Other teams could start dropping games and you could start winning games. So very important game next week. This game is important too, but I just don't think the Bucs have the firepower in them to go out there and win. So I will say Bills 27, Bucs 24. Close game though. This is a close game. It's not like a blowout, but that's going to do it for me here at the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. I want to subscribe, turn notifications. I see all you guys over on Twitter, 150 something of you guys. I appreciate you. Come check us out over here. Subscribe, turn notifications, even if you're just doing that. Let's get those numbers up. Everyone listening to podcast form, I appreciate y'all as always. I have 2% on my battery on my laptop. So we made it through the end of an episode. Went over the 30-minute mark like we always do, but good stuff, good information. I want more comments though. I want to chat with you guys. I want more people. Maybe we'll try something too where I drop the link and have you guys come on, as long as you're respectful. I'll get some of you guys on here to give your thoughts and takes, like a 2-minute shot, whatever. We'll figure it out. That's going to do it for me here at Pirate Parlay Podcast, Sick Podcast Network. I'm JC Allen. A little bit of personal news too. We can make it. A little bit of personal news. I know some of you guys are following along. Unfortunately, did not win the championship with my son. Double overtime loss. It still stings. 7U won though. 7U team won there. They got the championship. We were out there for the unveiling of their. We got like a fence that we put all the champions and rings and stuff. It was hard to watch, but motivation for next year. Also, still at Bucs Game Day over there at SI. But if you haven't noticed, I am writing now for Peter Plank as well. So you can find me all over the place. Peter Plank, Sick Podcast, Pirate Parlay, Bucs Game Day. So I'm all over the place. So check me out there. I'll be having a couple stories up over there right now at Peter Plank. I'll have a couple stories this weekend at both sites. My keys to Cannon Fire, which we kind of just went over. Also have matchups to watch, my thoughts and reactions, the good, bad, and the ugly from the game, whether it's a win or lose. All that stuff will be over on both of those sites, Peter Plank and Bucs Game Day on SI. So go check that stuff out. Appreciate all of y'all rocking with me as always. Mucho love and respect. So that's it. We're going to do it. We're going to close it down. We're out of here. I made it before my laptop died. Jimmy's going to hate me. We won't say 6-7 again anymore. I got yelled at. All right. Peace. We're out of here. Bye. Peace out. Later. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.